And we want to go out to our hotline and welcome in, as we do each week, Mike Pearson, longtime sports information director, Western Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, Miami, Ohio, publishing executive.
I always know when a Big Ten birthday is taking place.
He's Mr. Birthday.
Mike Pearson will tweet about it.
Absolutely. And he is also the creator of a fantastic new site, somewhat addictive, I'm warning you, SportsLLL.com. And Mike, you also want to let us know about your Twitter handle on that?
Well, we have daily updates, as Tom mentioned. There's lots of birthdays mentioned at B1GLLL. It stands for Big Ten Legends Listed Lore, but it's B1GLLL.
Just like the Big Ten logo, B1G, LLL.
Yeah,
Easy to remember.
That logo is starting to resonate. Everybody, when you see that, that's what you think of, Big Ten.
And if you say B1G, Mike Pearson shouts LLL. Just like
I-L-L.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about games in college football history. And there was one in 1991 that Tom Crawford's going to remember, Mike.
He might remember this one. It was 25 years ago, so Tom would have been, 3 years old at that point?
No.
But you remember as Desmond Howard was running down that sideline, what was Keith Jackson saying?
Well, I was at the game in Section 2 there, so I don't... I guess I saw it in the replay. Goodbye, hello, Heisman.
There you go.
Hello, Heisman, he said. And then on cue, there goes Desmond Howard's 93-yard punt return. And how does he end it in the end zone? But with a Heisman Trophy pose. So I'm convinced that meant as much to Bruce Motti's Heisman campaign as anything. Him striking the pose in the end zone.
But Michigan, Mike, Motti and any of those guys, Wayne, they never promoted individual awards, did they?
Oh, no, you never. No.
Never.
Not officially.
Michigan wouldn't do that.
Unofficially, under the covers, you're doing everything you can.
Absolutely. Hey, what would you like, a steak? What would you like two? What would you like? Are you a voter? Yeah. They even were nice to me that year.
Well, I tell you what, with Desmond, that was the first time that pose ever got posed. So that was another Michigan first, right?
It's been copied a few times since then, as you know.
Yes.
I want to go back another 7 years, Mike, back to 1984, and this was a Friday afternoon at the Orange Bowl.
I remember that one.
Boston College and Miami, Doug Flutie and Bernie Kosar, and what happened?
Okay, well, you had the defending national champs. They entered the game ranked number 12 in the nation. Boston College was ranked 10th, I think it was, and they had already accepted an invitation to the Cotton Bowl. But I remember Brent Musburger and Ara Parsekian were on the call. Right. As you say, it came down to the last play, and Doug Flutie lofted a long touchdown pass in the end zone, a Hail Mary to whom?
Gerard Phelan.
Yeah, Gerald Phelan. That is exactly right. You're pretty good with your history. Did you know that Doug Flutie passed for 472 yards and 4 touchdowns? Bernie Kosar only had 447 yards passed.
Between them, they had 900 yards.
And that was a really sloppy day. It was rainy down there at the Orange Bowl.
It was.
And so they did really well to execute under those conditions. I do recall that.
That's exactly right.
All right, let's go back on this date in Spartan history. And there was a Big Ten championship game against Illinois in 1963, and it was delayed. Tell us about that.
It was delayed on this date. 53 years ago, it was the day after the assassination of President Kennedy in Dallas, and numerous weekend football games were postponed or canceled because of the national grief and so on, and some Big Ten were called off at once. Among them, the Ohio State-Michigan game, and the big game of that day was the Illinois-Michigan State game. This was for the Big Ten championship and the Rose Bowl berth. By Saturday morning, the pressures from the faculty and the alumni and the government officials really forced a reconsideration, and a few hours before game time, all the Big Ten action that day had been postponed. But that title game was rescheduled for Thanksgiving Day, the following Thursday, and the Spartan coaches, of course, maintained that they were ready to go that day, and Duffy sent them to the men's IM building to let off some steam. Illinois flew back to Champaign. I got to know Jim Grabowski very well during my days at Illinois, and he says that was the best thing that ever happened, was canceling that day. He thought that Illinois coming in would have been flat, and they got recharged during the following week's practice.
Well, they owned that game, Tom. They won 13-0.
It was dominating performance, right? By the
13-0, and of course the linebacker. It was the linebacker against the running back in that one. The running back, of course, was Squirman Sherman Lewis, who was having a terrific game. And there was a linebacker for Illinois. His name was Butkus. Do you remember that? Claire?
Now that
do
sounds
remember
like,
that? The linebacker won.
That does not sound like a good physical matchup. I mean, if you're going to get a hold of Sherman Lewis, who was actually third in the Heisman that year, if I'm not mistaken.
Number 50 beat number 20 that day.
Yeah,
that was pretty clear. Let's go 3 years later, in 1966. Mike, the Associated Press announces its all Big Ten team, and this is Duffy Doherty's greatest teams in 65 and 66. And the 66 team, how many different Spartans were on 10?
When stars were announced by the conference office 49 years ago, 50 years ago today, 21 of MSU's 24 regulars, the starting 22 plus the 2 kicking specialists, were listed among the league's best players. Wow. That is unbelievable to me. 21 of the 24 either made first team, second team, or honorable mention honors.
In 1985, on this date, Lorenzo White completed his sophomore season, set an NCAA rushing record with 2,066 yards as a sophomore, and who knows how many he could have had. He only played one series against Indiana in the second half in a 286-yard day. If he'd even played the third quarter, he might have had 400 yards. That was a tremendous achievement. And then 11 years ago, remember Michigan State beating Arizona in overtime in basketball, 74-71, correct?
That's exactly right. That was number 12 Michigan State defeating number 9 Arizona 74-71 in the third place game of the Maui Invitational. Paul Davis made a couple of free throws with 30 seconds left to tie it, send it into overtime, and then Shannon Brown gave the Spartans a lead for good with a jumper with 35 seconds left.
You think of very boyish face, that big full head of hair.
Yeah, I think of it. I think of the national championship game, 1987.
He's 52 years old today.
Oh my word,
52 years old. Darrell Thompson, Mike, from Minnesota, one of the best, most underrated running backs in conference history. He's almost 50.
Big guy.
He's 49 years old. He's still a youngster. I remember Darrell Thompson. He was a fire plug on legs, and he could pulverize defensive players.
We also have a couple of Spartan birthdays. Gene Washington, who looks like he's about 50.
So he's got to be 70 by now.
72.
Wow.
72
years old. And of course, one of the all-time greats. And current Spartan Riley Bulla has a birthday today. He's 23.
23 years old for Riley Bulla.
His last game on Saturday. That's there's one more Bulla, right? Is that it? We're down to one?
No, you actually have, you have Byron Bulla, but you also have Holly Bulla.
Holly's a cross
who might be
country.
the best athlete in the family.
Right.
Yeah.
She's an NCAA champion in the making.
Play football, though, is she?
Right. I don't think so. I don't think she's going to play.
When Henry talks about Holly, he goes on and on. That's the best athlete.
Byron Bulla is a guy that Darian Harris says is going to be the best coach in the family, including Hank, including Chuck. And Byron is going to be a natural coach, and his career might end early. We don't know that.
Really?
From concussions.
Oh, that's sad to hear.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a lot of incidents,
well, that's an issue these days.
Yep, absolutely. Mike, how are you going to spend Thanksgiving?
Well, this is going to be done very quietly in Oxford, but I'm going to be in front of that game. This lifelong Lions fan is going to be nicely tucked in and watching a big game against the Vikings for a game that means something for a change.
All right, do the Lions win? Do they beat the Vikings tomorrow?
Oh, boy. Well, okay, this is heart against head here. My heart says, yeah, they'll beat them. My head says, oh, I've seen them disappoint so many times. I'm going to go with my heart on this one.
You know, they disappointed a lot of times, but these players haven't disappointed.
They make plays. They
that long.
Yeah.
You know, everyone says, well, yeah, but look what happened in 1983.
Well, that's what people...
These guys weren't born in 1983.
They default back to that and think that has an impact. You know, just like Michigan losing 11 games out of 12 to Ohio State. That doesn't mean anything. Speaking of which, Saturday, Mike Pearson, Michigan, Ohio State, who wins?
Oh boy, you know, this is a Buckeye State, and I would tend to say that Ohio State wins that game, but in a very close manner.
Mike is calling from Athens, Ohio. No. You're Oxford, Ohio, right?
Miami of Ohio.
Yeah,
Oxford, Ohio.
2 hours away from, or 2 hours away from the shoe.
Hey, I gotta ask you, Miami of Ohio. That is a story in itself.
Yeah.
They were 0-6, and now
they won their 6th straight game. This is after starting 0-6.
Right.
Now, did you know that no team in college football history has ever done that?
Ever done that? That's an amazing turnaround.
Start 0-6 and finish 6-0.
And didn't they win Didn't they win the East?
They tied for it. Yes. They'll not play in the championship game, but they are eligible for a bowl game, which 6 weeks ago you would have been laughed out of town.
That program has struggled so much in the last.
Imagine starting the season 0-6 and winning a bowl game.
That's exactly right. Well, when I was at Miami in 2010, we had a turnaround. We went 1-10 in 2009 and finished 10-4 in 2010. We were the first college team to ever go from double-digit losses to double-digit victories in one season. So this is a city of records here.
It's a nice place to go to school, man. It's a
beautiful school. You know, Tom, you are so closely tied to the University of Michigan, and I've had Michigan State dealings for so long. Mike has had the opportunity to be at a lot of different states down, and Illinois is down, and Miami looked like it was down. He can always say, well, you know what, I was at Western Michigan.
Yeah, there you go. He's a journeyman.
That's right. You know, you've always got a card in the game here, right?
It's like a wily card player. You always got an ace up your sleeve.
There you go.
Where would this Western Michigan team rank among Mid-America Conference teams you've seen? Is it as good as any?
You know, there have been a lot of great teams. Even the one at Miami here back in 03-04 with Big Ben has to be right there at the top. But, I mean, to go undefeated and win a couple of games against Big Ten institutions, albeit Northwestern and Illinois, it's still a wonderful season. And I'm really pleased for the folks of Kalamazoo.
Mike, thanks so much for joining us. Once again, can you remind our listeners, if they want some entertainment over the weekend, they want a break from all the football, all the things that they can see at SportsLLL.com?
Lots of Spartan information at SportsLLL.com. You'll see video puzzles. You'll see birthdays, all sorts of stuff. So I hope they'll be encouraged to visit.
Sounds good.